all members.
Mr. Speaker.
Point of order, Grant Robertson.
Mr. Speaker, I seek leave for question 9 to be held over until the Minister of Finance is here.
Leave is sought for that course of action. Is there any objection? There is objection. Question number 9, Grant Robertson.
Well, thank you very much, Mr. Speaker. My question is to the Minister of Finance. Does he agree with the OECD report on New Zealand that labour productivity is well below leading OECD countries, restraining living standards and well-being?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
On behalf of the Minister of Finance, improving productivity is a long-standing challenge for New Zealand, which the OECD report notes. The report goes on to say New Zealand recently halted its productivity decline relative to other countries, and the challenge now is to make up lost ground. The government is tackling this productivity issue with large investments in R&D and skills in recent budgets. We are seeing big increases in business R&D through our growth grants, and we are now producing a record number of ICT and engineering graduates. Finally, data last week showed we now have the highest level of business investment in plant machinery in almost 7 years.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
What responsibility does he take for the OECD further going on to say that income inequality is above the OECD average, our child poverty rate is more than double the rate in the best-performing OECD countries, and that living standards and economic growth vary considerably ethnically and geographically?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Well, Mr. Speaker, we, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, we rightly and proudly take our responsibility for the economic performance of New Zealand, for the fact that it's growing really strongly, for the fact that we have in the OECD the second highest employment in the figures and some of the very lowest unemployment. And Mr. Robertson, what that means is more people in jobs and over time better results for all New Zealanders, inclusive growth.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Why has he overseen an economy where the export sector is in recession, with exports of goods and services having fallen in real terms for the last 3 quarters, and where per capita growth has declined for the last 2 quarters?
Mr. Speaker.
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
On behalf of the Minister of Finance, simply do not accept that. Actually, if you look at what's happening, we've had a strongly diversifying export sector where, for example, technology has gone from very small to very large, our 3rd biggest export, where other sectors, high-value food, is coming up very strongly. I think in light of the GFC, this is a country that's going incredibly well with growth, with strong employment, lowering unemployment, and with exports diversifying and going up the value chain quite well.
Supplementary, Mr. Speaker.
Supplementary question, Grant Robertson.
Why, under his watch, are so many New Zealanders working more and more hours but feel like they're not getting ahead? And can he not see that relying on population growth and an overheated housing market is not actually an economic plan?
The Honourable Simon Bridges.
Mr. Speaker, on behalf of the Minister of Finance, in fact, if you look at what's happening in wage growth, it is going up. Actually, it's been higher since 2015 than the likes of the United States, than the EU. We've got a way to go, Mr. Speaker, but actually it's growing in a low inflationary environment, and I think New Zealanders will be pretty pleased by that. Actually, in addition to that, if you think about what we've done through the budget, as we've got the ability to do that, we've had families' income packages and so on that again help the New Zealanders that need it most.
Question number 10, Andrew Bailey.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. My question is